Hey everyone, so I was planning on just making a somewhat normal video today, taking a look at the slight changes that have been recently made to trading with the new variable commodity prices that are announced in-game to create trading hotspots, but it seems like CIG already wants to start ramping stuff up for Invictus launch week, which is happening in just a few weeks. Also, it seems like CIG really wants to avoid having another disaster like last year, so they've gone ahead and put a lot of the event content, like the Expo halls and the javelin flybys in the PTU this weekend, or at least they're planning on doing it. It's only going to be at certain times, and with some of the issues I'll talk about later that they've been having, they've had to delay it. It was supposed to be happening this afternoon, but we haven't gotten a confirmation yet of when it's going to happen for sure. If you're interested in checking it out yourself though, I have the information linked down below. That should hopefully get updated when they decide when they're going to be running this event, so go ahead and check that out if you want to take part and see some of the event stuff a bit early. But also I'll be making a video about that, so be on the lookout for a video on that in a bit. Also, they just decided to release the C2 and M2 Hercules as well as the tank in the PTU, so there's a whole lot of fun stuff to check out, and even if you don't have a Hercules, someone on the server definitely will, and they'll be all over the place. Before we start though, if you end up enjoying this video, please consider leaving a like and or subscribing, I really appreciate it. So to start off, there's been a lot of small changes made to various areas around New Babbage. They're pretty similar to what we saw for the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo late last year, but this time it's for Invictus. So this includes some small stuff like these ads posted around various areas in-game, like at the Aspire Grand, all around the train stations as you travel between the different areas. There's some slight advertising in the commons, but I guess they like to keep it classy here, so there's not all that much. And then there's quite a lot of advertising here at the New Babbage Interplanetary Spaceport. Speaking of the Aspire Grand though, I noticed this entrance here, which I believe is a new entrance to the hospital, and I don't think it was there before. Maybe I'm just remembering wrong, and if so, let me know in the comments, but if not, this is a good sign that they're making progress on having medical gameplay ready for 3.14, which should be coming in just a few months. Moving on from that though, a more notable change that you'll want to look out for if you're in New Babbage is the changes to the train system because of the convention center being open. I believe it's called the Tobin Center, but whatever it is, they've done what they did last time and just kind of plopped it between the Aspire Grand, which are the habs where you spawn, and the commons, so be aware of that if you're confused on why you ended up in the convention center and not the juice bar. Moving on to the Expo Hall lobby, this is also very similar to what we had with the IAE. There's a bit more military theme in the decorations with stuff like recruitment posters all over the place and these military statues, but there's still the same manufacturer merchandise areas which are pretty similar to what we had before. One thing I think a lot of people will be happy to see is that the leather jackets that everyone seemed to like from Fleet Week last year are back again. I guess they're not as rare of an item now, but at least you'll be able to stock up on some more now since, like most in-game items, they have a bad habit of disappearing over time. I do wish CIG would make cool items like this behave similar to stuff like the items we had for the Halloween event, where you could have them tied to your account since this is kind of a commemorative item, but I guess they just don't want to do that with these manufacturer items for some reason. But yeah, the lobby isn't that different from the IAE, but that's not a bad thing because that one was perfectly fine. One thing I'm happy to report is that I haven't had any elevator issues yet. As funny as this sounds, it was very annoying if it happened to you at the Aerospace Expo, because it meant that you had wasted the whole train ride from the habs just to get to the spaceport and not be able to leave because you have to take an elevator from the trains to the spaceport. It was very frustrating to get stuck at that point. But yeah, if they have this resolved, then that's definitely nice and will save a lot of people some frustration. Unfortunately, at least in the first version of this PTU patch, it seems like this issue has been replaced with constant 30Ks. In my short couple of hours recording for this video, I had 4, which is way more than normal, and even a lot more than the last 3.13.1 build, which I made the mistake of calling unstable. I guess they wanted to show me what unstable really is. But yeah, it's a good thing that they're doing this test now because it's much better that this happens now so that hopefully by the time the actual event is live and things are compounded by the free fly event that's going to be going on, they'll have worked out most of the bugs. And yeah, CIG is definitely aware that this patch was abnormally bad because they've already put out another sort of bug fix patch. And like I said, they were planning on having some of the Expo halls open this afternoon for a couple of hours along with some of the other Invictus related stuff like fleet flybys, but because of the poor state of the patch, they decided to delay that until they get it fixed. So again, if you do want to take part in that yourself, be on the lookout and they'll probably be updating that forum article that I have linked down below. But if you don't manage to catch that, I'll be making a video about that later. And it's just the stuff from Fleet Week, so you'll get to see it then eventually. Okay, and then before we get to the Hercules, I just wanted to show the Drake Defensecon stuff that you can see right now. I think this is also going to open up at the very end of the PTU session where they have the event halls open. So I don't have the Expo hall to show you yet, but I assume it's going to be like the Defensecon on ArcCorp, where they just repurposed an XL sized hangar into a pretty decent convention venue. So again, this part will be happening at the end of Invictus, but yeah, if you're looking for the Drake part of the Expo in a couple of weeks, remember that they weren't invited and they had to make do with hosting it at the spaceport here. Now moving on to the Hercules, I was really excited to finally get my hands on one of these beasts. I'm definitely going to be making a much more in-depth video where I go into using it for cargo, go over all of its features, and do one of my favorite activities of trying to cram a whole bunch of ships into it, but for now I have some first impressions to share. First of all, this thing is really massive. With all the pictures that we saw of it next to the Star Runner, it didn't look too far off in size from it, and the Star Runner isn't all that big, but seeing it in-game now, it really is way bigger than the Star Runner. The rear ramp is just so wide, but I guess that's what you need when you're making a vehicle to fly tanks around in. And continuing up the ramp, it doesn't disappoint. This cargo hold is just one ginormous open space, and they've actually ended up giving it more cargo than it was initially going to have at 696 SU, over 100 more than the Caterpillar. The fact that this is still under 1000 SCU of space though is pretty crazy, because ships like the Merchantman coming will supposedly hold multiple thousand SCU internally. And yeah, on a side note, the Merchantman just got added to the progress tracker out of nowhere, so get subscribed for a video on that very soon. I'm very excited to see what's going on with that. Back to the Hercules though, I do think its cargo bay will keep a special level of flexibility just because of that special dual ramp drive-through design that makes it really accessible to get even large items in here. And with this area being so open, there's just so much flexibility in what you can haul. And yeah, the Caterpillar I think still does have an advantage for 0G loading because of the convenience of those side doors and the tractor beam, but with these massive entrances at the front and back, the C2 isn't really all that far behind if you need to load some stuff in space in an emergency situation. I'm just excited for all the possibilities that a space like this brings though. Like, you've already seen that it can be used to park moderately sized ships in, but when salvage comes online it might even be useful for gobbling up ship parts through that front ramp and then disassembling them or taking them somewhere to sell inside. Now that probably isn't going to happen, but yeah, this is still going to be a very fun ship to mess around with when you're not using it to rake in credits trading, if they ever fix trade. Now I want to talk about the flight performance a little bit, and I was really hoping for something that handled atmosphere better than the Caterpillar, since the Caterpillar is fine, but it's pretty sluggish and can get pretty annoying to fly after a lot of cargo runs. And I'm glad to say that Crusader has really delivered again. It's no Star Runner, and turning and any sort of maneuvering in atmosphere is a little bit sluggish, but it's not too bad for its size, but the overall speed is really incredible. I'm pretty sure it was faster than the Aurora in the dense microtech atmosphere, and that's pretty crazy for a nearly 100-meter long ship. You're not going to be pulling any crazy maneuvers in it, but if you need to go from place to place, and it mostly involves flying in a straight line, it's going to get it done pretty quickly. So yeah, I'm definitely going to time a cargo run in this to see how much time that speed saves you, but just flying it around, it seems like it's going to be pretty substantial. Now for this last part, I just want to briefly go over the layout, but again, I'll be doing a more detailed look at this in a bit when I don't have to constantly stop and claim this thing over and over again. So you've already seen a lot of the lower level of the ship, which is basically just an empty cargo bay in the C2 with ramps on the front and the rear. I didn't really get a chance to look at an M2, but I assume it's pretty similar, but with the addition of drop seats. One inclusion I was happy to see but wasn't expecting was the personnel elevator. So this is around the middle of the ship on the left side, and it goes from the ground outside the ship and can take you to either the cargo level or the bridge level. And this is really useful since both of the ramps are very large and take a little while to open up, so this is a convenient way to board the ship if you don't need to load any cargo. Also next to the elevator is this ladder, which is kind of a pain to go up, but going down it is a whole lot of fun. If you hold shift, you can get down pretty quickly. Now moving on to the upper level, this is where you have the habitation area, which is similar to the Star Runner, but it only has space for two. And then on the other side of the ship you have the recreation area, which swaps the chessboard on the Star Runner for a massive TV. I think I know which one I'd take. Then running down the middle of the ship, there's a ton of these storage lockers, which actually look like they're functional right now, and you can store personal inventory stuff in here, like was shown on one of the inside Star Citizens. So that'll probably be really useful once they start moving to local inventories. But yeah, you've got the engines at the rear and some smaller components like the life support and radar in this middle area at the front, and that's about it. Now this is a pretty cool space, and it feels very industrial as it should be in a ship like this, but I kinda wish there were either some holes or transparent areas on this upper level so you could look down on the cargo area. This section of the ship already feels like a catwalk sort of, and I think it would have been really cool if they'd embraced that. Now moving on down this very long tunnel, you pass a lot of component housings and even some suit and weapons lockers on the way to the bridge. And the bridge here is very interesting. You've got seats for a pilot and co-pilot, and that's it since it's supposed to be a two-man ship, at least for the C2 variant. It's a little bit odd since the co-pilot controls both of the remote turrets, so as far as I can tell there's no way to have both of them going at once. But with the rear one's firing arcs being so bad, I guess that's okay. And the interior styling in here is similar to the Star Runner again, with the MFDs being a bit all over the place, and the switches are spread around quite a bit too. What I do miss from the Star Runner though is that cockpit view. Flying this thing first person is like flying a freelancer on stilts, and if you're coming from the Star Runner, you're going to be pretty disappointed with this little slit of windshield that you get. And until we get some new landing UI, you're going to be in third person to fly this thing a lot of the time. But hey, that's not a terrible thing because it's a pretty nice ship to look at. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video for now. Like I said, if you catch this video in time, you can also go ahead and check out some of the Invictus stuff a bit early, and I'll be doing that later. But if not, the Starlifter and the tank will still be around in either the PTU or the live patch, depending on when you watch this. So there's definitely some fun to be had. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to Invictus now, but that's all I have for now. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and or subscribe, and thanks for watching.